So as we continue to mark Women's History Month, our next guest grew up in a world that wasn't built to accommodate her, but her parents taught her that would not matter, and they proved that to their daughter through leading by example. Roberta "Bobby" Cordano is the first deaf and openly LGBTQ woman to be president of Washington, D.C.'s Gallaudet University, the world's only liberal arts university for deaf and hard of hearing people. And President Cordano has made it very clear to all deaf people they don't need fixing. Deaf gain benefits all. Just one guiding principle that led her to becoming one of USA Today's Women of the Year. President Cordano will tell you role models and representation matters. It was those key things that brought her to where she is today, linking the deaf community and the hearing world while working tirelessly to advance equality for every one of her students. And it's an honor to have Gallaudet's president, Bobby Cordano, with us here in studio today. So great to have you.
Oh, it's lovely to be here with you, Kira. Thanks so much.
So you say there should be more Gallaudets around the world. Why?
You know, absolutely. If you look to our history at Gallaudet, for 158 years, we have graduated over 20,000 alumni at Gallaudet. The United States is only this place in the world where the deaf community has an economy that's worth $3 billion. And so what that means is real jobs and real opportunities. In fact, our alumni have led civil rights movements. We have changed so much in our country as it relates to even the Deaf President Now protest. And if you can imagine what's happening in other countries, right, as we empower deaf people through providing education, as we do at Gallaudet, in a bilingual way using both American Sign Language and English, and of course, English in its written form here, but whatever language of that country, that liberation leads to change and the economic benefits can be realized by everyone around the world.
You've actually moved me a little forward in the interview. Let's go to Deaf President Now from the 80s. That was a civil rights moment for the deaf community. Let's talk about what happened there and how it paved the way for you.
Right. You know, it's all about the students. It's young people who believed that there's something possible in the world that wasn't present. In 1988, it was 4 students who stood up and said, it's time that we have a deaf president, and everyone got behind them. The rest of the student body, faculty, staff, alumni, the deaf community got behind those student leaders, realizing it was time to have deaf leadership at Gallaudet University. I mean, we'd been graduating students who'd become alumni for so many years, but no one had ever stepped into that role as president. And so for deaf people to come forward as students and set that future, that's a powerful moment of change. And that's why I'm so proud to be president of Gallaudet now, because they made it possible for me to be here today. And I'm seeing the next generation of students who will be leading the world in the same kinds of ways.
And you know, I'm so thrilled that you're here because I grew up with deaf teachers all around me. Your dad knew my grandfather, and my mom was such a fan of yours and watched you rise. And now here you are, the first woman, deaf woman, openly gay woman, to be president of this university. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to the deaf community, to the LGBT community? I mean, you talk about inclusion.
That's so true. You know, I always have to say it's so wonderful to see how small our world can be as our families have been connected. It's just remarkable to see that. And that's what's so beautiful about our community. We're connected in so many different ways. But I will share with you that when I first came out, yeah, you know, people told me back then that that's it for you. Your future is likely to be very limited. You'll never achieve what you want to achieve. But yet, think about it. Here I am, 30-plus years later, as president of Gallaudet. And this, I have to say, comes from years upon years of working within our community, here in our country, to really open the eyes of individuals to the power of differences and what happens when you have representation from people who are diverse within organizations and within leadership positions. You know, what happens is that we improve perspectives, we improve and deepen ourselves in very rich ways, we adapt and become creative, and that's the power of diversity. And you know, what's happened to me in my life is that people have opened doors for me. So that's allowed me to be where I am today, and I have great gratitude. It runs deep to all of those who came before me. And as I look to the next generation of young people, as they look up to role models, they see role models who are diverse, and they can find themselves reflected in that diversity in those positions. And so that's powerful to have this opportunity I have here, not just for me, but for all young people who will be the leaders of our future.
Well, you were so lucky. You had role models like your parents who they were breaking barriers at their time as well. So you saw that. But this goes even beyond the deaf community. You are linking the hearing world with the deaf world. And you're talking about the deaf gain and the benefits we all can learn from. You even have challenged everybody to learn sign language, whether you're deaf or not. Tell me about this mission.
Right. You know, I think it started with my parents. My parents insisted that all of us learn to read and be proficient in both languages, both English and American Sign Language. And essentially, I grew up as a very bilingual person. And if I look to my success, I really can attribute that to being able to learn both languages and be fluent in both from birth until, I mean, even now, of course, I still practice bilingualism. And to me, you know, it's that lesson and what I see in terms of my building of the 2 charter schools as I did to serve deaf, hard of hearing children. In those bilingual charter schools, and I've seen time and time again since then, bilingual education provides access to both languages. And we have to stop looking at this as it's an either-or proposition, either English or American Sign Language. It's actually both. And all children really should have the right to have both languages. I say that because there's neurological benefits that can be realized through learning a visual language. I mean, science has been able to see how it enhances a person's ability to read. It provides protective factors against illnesses like dementia in older age, and it actually improves the complex brain functions that we have. I mean, look at all these babies who are learning baby sign language.
Yes.
Our parents are teaching them because they realize that children can't talk yet, but certainly they can gesture, and so they can sign cookie and eat.
Right.
And
milk.
Yeah, exactly, milk,
right.
right? Their brains are really growing and developing in such a way that they're able to have complex functions and connections made neurologically by having both a visual language and a spoken language exposure. Bilingual brains have proven to be more successful in terms of how they achieve as opposed to monolingual brains. And then I even saw this in my own family. My grandparents were told not to learn sign language because my mother was deaf. She became deaf at the age of 4. And the irony of it is that my grandfather became deaf later in life after he turned 50. And my grandparents, my grandmother especially, would say to us, you know, think about it. Now, when I think about your grandfather, he and I have to write back and forth to one another to be able to communicate. Right. And she said the irony of it is we have a deaf daughter and her children, her family all sign, and yet we can't. So we know that hearing loss is going to be quite prevalent, and it is quite prevalent in people who, as they're older. So if you learn sign language between the ages of birth and 3, the language center of your brain becomes available to language. And even if you don't use that sign language again until you're in your 50s, your brain will still be able to remember that language, and that means you'll be able to pick it up again quickly whenever you need it. So if you think about all of the families who are struggling with communication around hearing loss, you know, with all of our loved ones, we all want to connect.
Yes,
just learn to sign.
That.
Honestly, it can be the solution for all of us. And it allows us to connect.
Thank you so much. You know how much this meant to me, and I always get nervous signing on television. We'll sign after this interview, but it's been a pleasure to have you and represent our parents and our connection and just what you're doing for the deaf community and the hearing community and teaching everybody just how beautiful it is to be a deaf person. Thank you.
Oh, I'm thinking they're all watching us with great pride right now, right? As we move forward in the world here. It's great being with you here today.
So much.
Thank
and then
you.
Everyone knows this side.
Right,
That's
exactly.
right. President, thank you so much.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.